McDonald to deep left field. Hamilton back at the wall. Off the wall. Welcome to Boston, Darnell McDonald, the Red Sox newest hero.
Driven to deep left center. Way back and gone. First as a Cub for Darnell McDonald.
So imagine if we could focus on the baseball or focus on anything that we're doing. That's a superpower. So this is a superpower that we have. We can develop this skill of being present, being in the moment.
High drive, deep left. He's got another deep, far, and very gone. Darnell McDonald takes him out of the yard, and the Red Sox lead it 1-0.
Yeah, that's like usually podcast intros for me.
Absolutely.
I was a former nuclear power plant engineer, and I've been sick my whole life. Everything from being ripped out with forceps, having twisted hips, wearing special shoes, growing 9 inches in 3 months, being ran over by a car, to being a universal reactor, meaning becoming allergic to everything I was around. And so I just couldn't accept, you need drugs to suppress these symptoms. And I started my journey for natural healing. And I met Dr. Scherger. He's the one who coined Spinal Fitness and was the one that worked with the U.S. Olympic team. There was a special team of people to figure out why the athletes with the low back curve were stronger, superior in every way. And so they did a mathematical analysis on it and then actually developed exercises so people that don't have that can get it and maintain it. And it was used, he worked with Ron O'Neal when he was with the New England Patriots up until his death in 2006. So yeah, it's kind of a long history of how I got into this, but I went from nuclear power plant construction to land development, running construction crews. I was building 12 houses a year, to managing nonprofit corporations, doing all their financials, going to board meetings. And so this is just kind of like my fourth life in this life, and getting to have fun. And now I have 10 patents in the U.S. alone. I have international patents as well, and more in the pending status.
Is that all?
That's amazing.
Wow.
It really is. And I know, like you said, you sent me the infrared sauna thing. Is it's a game changer. It's a life changer for me. And I think more people should know about these things, right? Like, even there's times where I don't feel like working out, man, and like this thing just gets me going and it energizes me. And just, I've always been someone that sweat a lot. I love to sweat, and that thing there has got me where I've been stuck, right? I was stuck, didn't feel like doing anything. I started getting in there, and it helped me get back in my routine. So I would like you to talk more about that. But what was the first thing that you said? Was it 10 or 11 patents?
I have 10 in the U.S. that have been granted. 7 utility, those are the ones that are very difficult to get. And then 3 design patents. And 5 of those patents relate to Spinal Fitness alone. And I actually have more that I'm going to be filing on Spinal Fitness. There's, and it's crazy. I'm a problem solver and I'm a gadget woman. And, I go to sleep with a problem and I see it. I wake up, I get help, it's like, it's, something that I don't have to really try very hard to accomplish. So
let's hear more about that Spinal Fitness. I know we were talking the other day, and I was telling you, in the yogi world, not to scare anybody off, but the yogis believe like the God is in your spine, you know, and it's all
Right.
for
The
your spine.
Kundalini.
Yeah, for this energy, right? So, you know, I'd love to hear more about the spinal fitness and what you do with the, you know, the rollers and all that stuff.
Right. Well, one of the things not real common knowledge is that there is actually a preferred or a mechanical shape and gravity that's superior. See, you cannot change the muscle attachments to your bones. Now, there's a lot of people in all kinds of sports that have tight muscles that are doing all kinds of stretching and everything they can do to gain their flexibility, except for the basis, the root of why they get the tight muscles. Now, Leonardo da Vinci wrote about spinal biomechanics. Then a man named Borelli in 1680. Then it wasn't until Burl Pettibon, he is a type of chiropractor. There's like different sects of chiropractor theories. And he came up with the spinal model that needed to be an S-shaped curve to have the most efficient position in gravity. Then Dr. Scherger, he was a formerly trained Pettibon chiropractor. But years before that, I mean, he worked in, you know, bodybuilding at the European gyms, and then he worked out on construction sites where he was aware of rigging with cranes and all kinds of things. So we kind of understood physics and lever arms and all that kind of stuff. And so he started looking at inducing curvature to spine, you know, to the spine, so that when you're at rest, you know, your muscles aren't all tight. So the basis of spinal fitness is inducing curvature. And, you know, like 99% of all the athletes, all the trainers out there, they're not teaching how to get this S-shaped curve. They don't even know that it exists. So that's the first hurdle. And, you know, in the 1980s and 90s, Dr. Scherger assembled a team from the U.S. Olympic team in Colorado. There was a guy named Bob Beaton and Jennifer Stone. And then they worked with a guy named Smitty, who is a heavyweight Olympian coach for athletes. He worked for York Barbell for 50 years. So he's like really into fitness and training. And then Ron O'Neal from the New England Patriots, he was a trainer there for 26 years. So this team of people got together and started figuring out how to evaluate curvature of players. That's how the New England Patriots got away for not paying very much for excellent players for so many years, because they had the secrets of Dr. Scherger, how to evaluate curvature. Because you can have a really talented athlete who's going to be a train wreck and get injured and be no good to your team, you know, because of this curvature or lack of it. And then you've got people who have excellent curvature that just need to be tuned up with their you know, game techniques. And so he would help them pick superior players, and then he would help them train players so that they could become the superior athlete. And so the low back curve is critical in relation to where your head, your upper body curvature is at. And what this team did is they actually worked with Cornell University, and they compared posture, because Dr. Scherger loved football. You know, because when two linemen go head on head, the one who has the low back curve would always overpower the one with the flat back. And so they actually took the spine in those both positions and then calculated mathematically the shear forces and the compression forces of every joint and the amount of muscle expenditure it took in those positions. And they mathematically proved that the S-shaped curve was stronger to dominate. So after they did that, then they mathematically started looking at levers, because to induce curvature, it's like if you want to get a suntan, you go out in the sun for so many minutes and your skin adapts to that. So we have to put the body in a position where it will adapt. And so that's where physics came in. And he came up with a product called the Power Cushion. He advised against any kind of regular sit-up. And I wanted to show you, let me get this set up here. I kind of, instead of being at my desk, I came in here so I can demonstrate with us a bit. Here's a spine.
S-curve gait, the deflate gait, well, the S-curve gait, and so now we know why the Patriots dominated for so long.
Yeah, so see, you've got to have this curvature to where this skull is right over this pelvis. So this big swooping low back curve, but also the curve in your neck. This is what ideal curvature is. I mean, almost every spine mannequin, I got a full mannequin, it was impossible to bend it to perfect curvature. That's how little this is known. But like a regular sit-up, is what I want to explain, but it deals with shear forces. When you have these curves like this, you have this shear force coming back in this direction, and there's these bones that's bone on bone. Those are facets, the upper and the lower one, and so gravity's pushing against bone on bone, and that's pretty strong. It's like a vice. It's not the ligament, and it's not the multifidus and the interspinalis to fatigue or tear. But it's interesting, when you lose that low back curve, like most of us don't have the low back curve, then the shear forces reverse, going in this direction, and then it creates posterior shear. That's why you don't want to do a regular sit-up, because posterior shear, now it's not bone-on-bone protection. These can twist, the nerves can pinch, the discs can bulge and dislocate. So what they found out, this team, it's like, imagine trying to move a boulder. You'll have this bar, this long bar, to get underneath that boulder, and then you'll have a block. Like what Dr. Sugar had was the Power Cushion. You'll have this block. So we're going to treat the spine as a lever, and we're going to put it so that the hip bones are supported there, and then you're arching over it. Then you could do a pelvic tilt, so there's no posterior shear because the cushion puts the spine as if it already had perfect posture. So you do a pelvic tilt, and then you do a sit-up. So it's protecting the spine from posterior shear. But what it's doing now, because then you're going to put force, on the hips, you're going to put force on the chest when you do the sit-up, and that's going to actually strengthen muscles you're not working out. It is going to strengthen the multifidus and the interspinalis muscles. And in the process of this, because you're supported underneath like a train on a train track, you're going to hear your spine pop, and vertebrae are going to be gently guided into a better location, but you're going to be able to simultaneously use muscular co-contraction in a horizontal and a vertical way. And it is going to literally shear bones back into place, because now we're getting that, anterior shear instead of the bad posterior shear. And so there's 3 exercises that we do. There's the pelvic tilt, There's the sit up, and then there's the neck flexion. Now, the neck flexion is just a simple, actually, I'll take this off so you can see, exercise.
So, Eileen, so say Jack wants to work on his S curve. Like, how long does it take to develop this S curve? I know when you
Dr. Sugar found that it takes 12 weeks, 3 to 5 times a week, doing these exercises and doing them progressively, meaning that if you have pain doing an exercise, you don't do any more reps. This is not about like in weightlifting where, like you grunt out the last few reps where you just want to get that muscle overloaded. Because this is about therapeutic, restorative exercises. So initially, for like the neck exercise, you would look up to the ceiling. Some people, believe it or not, can't even look up there without pain. So wherever that position is, just slightly, wherever it is, that's where you stop because it's not about pain. And then you're putting a little bit of resistance, with this device. And then this isn't about pushing forward, trying to, hold weight. Like I've seen some devices online, like the Iron Net, where it's just like, your isometric, just tightening muscles. This is about chin down. Like if you nod at somebody, if you agree with somebody, that's your C5 in your neck bones. And that's all that is. We're just going to exercise that movement right there. And so chin up, look up, slight pressure. It's just a rotation, chin down. Then when you're level, you just relax and push back. Now, if you look, if you can see my low back curve, my low back curve increases. It's like, this trains me to put my head over my pelvis to the ideal position in gravity. And so those are the 3 exercises. Dr. Sugar used to say, it's like flossing and brushing your teeth. You wouldn't eat candy before bed without taking care of those. So it's the same thing. All of us are like at desks. We're looking on our phone. Gravity is like pounding on us. So we can just have the neck shaper when it says, your exercise monitor says, get up and walk, get up and drink some water, those kinds of things. Just, whip out about 5 or 6 of those each time you're getting up to move. It's not a super hard commitment to start restoring the neck flexibility in the neck. And the power cushions, it's kind of like making the light bulb. We're in version 3 now, but I think one more version and we'll be ready to go. Dr. Sugar used to teach, laying over the power cushion with a rolled up towel for the neck. So you could, arch your neck, and do that movement like this. And so what I've done, because that's not real stable, is create a cushion with an attached neck shaper. See, this is wiggling. We're going to stop that. But basically, you're arching over it. You do like a bridge, and then you exercise this neck. And it really works well, for strengthening the neck. The neat thing about the neck flexion is you normally stand up when you do it, but you can additionally clamp this on any 1-inch barbell that you have. So when you have, greater strength, you're going to want to put weight on this. And I just use, this is like a neck shaper cushion. That's a whole nother set of therapy that we do. Is Dr. Sugar taught a spinal twist to change the density of our discs, because normally they're like a hard sponge. So he wanted to like liquefy them, pumping, have the blood vessels pumping nutrients into the spinal discs, and then to lay down with these rolls so that your muscles can relax from the bones. And literally when you're laying over these rolls, because they have once for the low back, once for the neck, then your muscles release. So what I do with the neck flexion on like a regular workout bench that people would have, like there's a workout bench right there. Let's see if I can get my phone to cooperate here. My assistant,
30 pounds right there, 25 pounds.
Yeah, that's 20 pounds. That's where I'm at.
So that's an advanced 20 pounds right there. I can imagine doing it right now. My head not snapping off my neck.
Yeah, and you might even be able to hear my neck bones crack as I do this. So I just stick this underneath here and kind of roll out to the edge. Oh, and this is backwards. I put this on backwards just a second here. There we go. So I put that on there, and then I arch over and chin down. Can you hear those bones?
I hope that's not your bones.
That's a little too loud to be bones, isn't it?
Jeez.
Some of it was bones initially, but it like guided my neck bones. From when I was born, my C1, C2, C5, it's not quite normal, so I'm always fighting that. And this is like a train on a train track. And yes, my bones crack when I do this, and it aligns and feels so much better. I was unloading a whole bunch of stuff when the saunas came. There was like 150 sauna tents, 150 lamps. It's just like, we had like 2 hours to bust this out. So I was just constantly, lifting all that. And when I got done, it's like my arm, it was like even hurtful to brush my hair. And so I came here, did this, my neck popped, and then it was all fixed. So these things help, keep the body in alignment, because, whether we're in contact sports or whatever we're doing, we're putting stress on our spines. And so this is something that really, is helpful. We additionally have another device. Let me grab it here. Everybody's
what, if you can, like what, athletes that you work with, problems that you've seen, and like what, I know you a couple people you brought back that have had serious back problems.
Right. Well, I do an evaluation, which I'll just, kind of stand up. You can move back that way and show you. The first thing I do is I have them feel their hamstrings. Because when you're standing up, they should be completely loose. And I mean, just about every listener is going to have tight hamstrings. That means your structure has got issues. And keep in mind that your body spends tremendous amount of energy keeping your body from falling over in gravity. And so that tightness, that energy expenditure, is not available for fast twitch muscle recruitment or stride length. So it's just like really important to get this S-shaped posture. But so what I do is I evaluate, have them touch that, then I have them bend over. Don't cheat by hunching the back over, but just bend over and see how far they can touch. So for instance, you asked Cheeto, the UFC fighter, when he bent over, he was about that far from touching his fingertips to the ground. After we were done, he was like this. That's like 5 minutes later from doing the pelvic tilt and the sit-up and the neck flexion. But beyond tightness, bending over, I'll have athletes raise your arms up. A lot of them don't have their arms completely straight. And it's because the loss of the neck curve won't allow their arms to go completely back. So that tells me about their neck. Then the other thing is I have them turn their neck to look, to see how far that they can turn their head. And then the other thing is I will have them actually just jump up. So if you just jump, do they land in the same spot, or do they land forward, or do they land backward? Those kinds of things tell us about posture problems. And then I can take 5 minutes with them and do like 10 reps of each. The pelvic tilt, the sit up, the neck flexion, and do it again. I had one guy gain 11 inches in reach. He was so tight before with his low back. I'm having people turn their head 2 and 3 inches more one way. They feel like, oh my gosh, I feel lighter, I feel taller, I'm standing up better. And so it's just amazing what that can do. So I basically do the same evaluation with everyone. I went up to Boise State and met J.L. Skinner. He's the safety who's got all the records, for football. I'm sure he's going to go pro. His low back curve was a 3.75 hard. I mean, it's just like awesome, but he still had tight hamstrings, and his neck is his weakness. Man, he could barely turn it like this. I mean, I'm serious. He just couldn't turn his neck. Then after we put the weights, I actually put weight. I think I only put like 20 pounds on him, but then I also had my hand on the bar, so I wasn't letting him have the full effect of it. But afterwards, he could turn his head like almost 3 inches more in either direction. And he could just feel a dramatic difference. I've worked with Luke Rockhold. He's going to be fighting July 30th in Texas. And he was told by Joe Rogan to get a hold of a spinal surgeon and, get help for his herniated disc. So about that time, I met him and I gave him a power cushion and the backtrack and sized him for rolls and gave him the neck shaper, taught him how to do the exercises, and he completely rehabilitated. See, what Dr. Sugar and that team with Ron O'Neill from the New England Patriots, they found that if somebody had a herniated disc or any L4, L5 injury, and they put them on that pelvic tilt, they were able to shear back the bones that had that disc attached to it and eliminate the problem. And
I needed that about 10 years ago. I had an L5 stress fracture, and it's one of the worst injuries I've ever had in my life. Like, I felt like I was 70 years old, and no one could figure out what it was for a long time until I went to Dr. Yoakum, who I think passed away a while ago. But I wish I would have had one of these power cushions.
Yeah. And then there's something very therapeutic that everyone should do, because after you play a hard game or before you go to bed, or if you're any pain at all, there's that exercise that I talked about to pump nutrients into the spinal discs and to change their density so they can be formable. And so it's really an easy exercise. You just sit on a flat surface, arc that low back, even if you don't have one, cheat by looking up with your chin, and you put your arms out like this. Then you lead with your eyes. It's just like in drawing. If you're a draftsman, you look where you want to go. So you're going to look with your eyes and you're going to rotate, and you do that like 30 times. Looking with the head, and then that is going to cause your spinal discs to change their density and become moldable. And so then everybody's back is different. That's why we have cushions in 5 different diameters. Actually, here's a better shot. There's all the low back. The blue is soft, orange is medium, maroon is hard. So if you have any pain and you're not 200 pounds, then you're going to want to start with the soft. If you don't have pain and you have pretty good curves, you're going to want to start with the medium. And so basically you let me do it with this guy here. Here. Got a cranky granddaughter. Sorry about that. But so 1 inch above your iliac, you're going to want to put the low back curve. And then the neck, you're just going to fill up the areas so the back of your head just touches the ground. We don't want it propped up, and we don't want it gaping. And then when you relax, what happens is your muscles relax because there's no gravity involved. Then literally, you're going to hear your bones pop as the groove guides them into a better location. Then after 20 minutes, your spinal discs firm back up to that, denser foam consistency. And then when you roll off of there, you're going to feel less tense in your shoulders. You're going to feel less low back pain. There's a father whose son that was 12 years old, and he had a trampoline accident. He'd been through physical therapy and everything, and he was having seizures. So he came over, and I fitted him to the rolls, taught him how to do the back twist. And a month later, the father came back and said, Eileen, he hasn't had a seizure since. He just is so dedicated to using those rolls. And so when we have our nerves pinched, because of the bones being out of place and tight muscles, we can have all kinds of things happen. Another person was actually given a neck shaper. He was scheduled for surgery for 10 years. He'd had just neck pain so bad, nothing would alleviate it. So he was scheduled for a fusion. And he started using the neck shaper. And within 2 weeks, all of his pain was gone, so much so that the surgery was canceled. So these products, every single one of them, like no matter what athlete I take, or if it's an 80-year-old woman that can barely walk, no matter who it is, I can put them on there and do very few. As few as 5, maybe 10 reps of each exercise once. I'm talking 5 minutes. There's instant progress and improvement.
But you have to keep going, right? You gotta stay consistent with the work.
Yes, you do. Just like anything else. But the thing about back pain, because after I got ran over by that car, every breath I took felt like a knife was just pounding in my heart. And, it was just a lot of pain. And so he had me laying over towels that were folded with the groove in the middle. And that's what I did. Every day I went and got adjusted, and then he started having me do small exercises to rehabilitate because, I've got people that have suffered from migraines and just tension in their upper body that lay over the rolls, and like within a few days, they're not having migraines anymore. So it's like it kind of pushes them to be consistent. And the thing about laying over the rolls, you can multitask, you can read, you could lay in your sauna, you could do so many things. So that's a super simple one, and if I could just get people to carry around a neck shaper by their desk, it's like how many people get fatigued because their heads, if you just do just a couple of these, and then the pain goes away, it'll sell itself. It's just something new that people aren't used to, but as far as the athletes go, I have these PDF documents where I rewrote a lot of Dr. Sugar's work. There's one that says exercises we recommend and the exercises we, ask you to avoid. And it's because of that posterior shear. So it's actually reducing your curvature, which puts you in a dangerous position for injury. And Dr. Sugar used to teach, body muscle overload training does not make a strong joint or the S-shaped curve. So it's like after you really work on getting your S-shaped curve, then there's some exercises that you can do with proper form, so that you're not damaging your curvature. But there's so many people, including our children in school, who haven't, until somebody's 18 years old, the density or your bones are not developed, the ossification, the size, and the shape. It takes 18 years, yet we're putting our children through these repetitive motions and exercises that are causing them not to develop this curvature. And so it's like the physics of third lever arm physics in Dr. Sugar's work, he proved that the textbooks are wrong, and that we need to induce this curvature. And, it's a mindset change. It's like one of the PDF guides I talk about in depth about why don't do a leg extension or a leg curl. That ACL ligament, as you extend that out, there's no supporting, and then the bones pushing down on it, and ligaments are only meant to stretch a little tiny bit, then they tear. And so there's other exercises he recommends instead of doing those. And so the players' knees will last longer and have less injuries on their knees. But yeah, doing things like, where you can let your rib cage float, when you're doing your arms and your pull-ups and all that kind of stuff, it's really good. So there's alternative exercises that you can do to strengthen the muscles. But I'd really like to get people evaluated, and when their curves aren't there, teach them how to get the curves. And it's you start off with maybe, like I said, with the people that I've evaluated, and these are professional athletes. Mm-hmm. These are professionals. Like Cheeto, he was so stiff when I was arching him over the cushion that he kept on lifting his butt off the ground because he had no flex. He could only flex maybe like 1 inch. He was like straight as a board. He's like stocky, strong, powerful, but no flex. And so I said, it's okay. I don't care if I only am putting resistance on you where we're moving an inch. That's where we need to be. And as soon as he did that, I got like 5 reps in, and that's where we got, probably 5 inches in reach in 5 minutes. So you're going to start off with very few reps, maybe 5, 10. Then the next time you do that, if you're still feeling resistance to where you're being, challenged with that, you don't increase. You do the same. Maybe you're going to add a second set or third rep, or, maybe 5 sets, but then as you feel that you're not being challenged, you might go up maybe 5 reps. So it's going to take a while, but the ideal goal was to be able to get to 100 sit-ups over the power cushion and 100 pelvic tilts. So the weight stack machine, it's got these long rods that the machine, because you lay down on this machine and it has these long rods. It only had like 100 pounds possible. And so it wasn't about doing super heavy weight, but it was about being able to do that 100 pounds with 100 reps. And that's what's in the New England Patriot football training room to this day. There's 3 of those machines in existence, one in my office, one there, and then there's a chiropractor in Hawaii that has one. But the thing about that is I had a dream, because it's like, that machine's not portable, and you really need, now I'm going to demonstrate how to do a few of these sit-ups, and I just use a barbell to get weight, because we want to have weight. It's kind of like the weight of the boulder, I'm the lever, and then the power cushion is that fulcrum, so we got to have those 3 components working together to strengthen those muscles, to shear back bones, to, get those curvatures in there.
So tell us, Eileen, so Jack, he had to run back to work, but before we go, can you let us know where can we find, the cushions and the pads and all the other stuff that you have that you've come up with, and all the help.
Yeah.
Where should people go?
They should go to creatrixsolutions.com, and that's spelled CREATRIX as an X-ray, solutions.com. And then there's some videos, some before and afters and pictures on Instagram as well.
Creatrix.com. Is there how
Creatrixsolutions.com. It's like creating. I'm constantly creating new products, and it's like all the other domains were taken, right? So Creatrix Solutions, it's like where innovative health products come to life. Because, we have the near-infrared sauna. We've got neat little devices that clean the air and produce oxygen. We have our own natural skincare line, everything about being natural and healthy and detoxifying.
Yeah, yes, love it. And I'm so happy and grateful for your time and all the information you always share. So it is amazing. And I'm glad that, a mutual friend of ours, Tyson Ross, who's really big into health and wellness and recovery, introduced us all. So I'm grateful for that. And keep up the good work with this stuff, and look forward to. I'm gonna check out Luke in the UFC. I watched a couple videos and seeing how high he can lift his leg. For someone's head is pretty crazy, knowing that he had some, like you said, Joe Rogan said, you need to go see a spine specialist to possibly get surgery. So you're impacting a lot of people's lives. So we thank you for that. Creatrixsolutions.com. Go check it out. Feel better, right? It's about feeling better, feeling good.
Right. Actually, it's about energy. Being efficient with the energy that we make.
All right. Yeah. So have a good day. Jack is at work. I'm sure he's happy to have you on. We're happy to have you on, and thank you.